Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're just going to give everybody a minute or so to come into the room. Hopefully, you can hear us and see us. So do just pop in the chat that we're coming through loud and clear, and tell us where you're joining us from this morning. I can see Tamrin's here. So Tamrin's from South Africa. So nice to see you, Tamrin. I can see Karen, who I know is up in the Highlands. Where's everybody else? And we'll just give people another 30 seconds or so. We've got Lee from Tamworth. Welcome, Lee. Yeah, Karen and Andrew. Welcome, Andrew, in the Highlands. So we've got a really exciting session for you this morning. I'll let Paul introduce himself in just a moment. General housekeeping, we love questions. This is an interactive session. Paul and I collectively have many years of experience making cloud accounting work in our respective accounting firms. So use us to throw those challenging questions at us during the course of the session. Feel free to use the Q&A box. Any comments in the chat box as you're doing here. Hi, Tony in cold Cornwall this morning. So I'm just going to pop my screen share on and let you see some slides that are going to drive us through the session this morning. Okay. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. We're going to talk about optimizing accounting, and naturally that kind of stuff starts with bookkeeping. So we're going to talk a lot about bookkeeping, how you can build really effective workflows to improve what you do internally in your firm, but also for your clients. So let's get the introductions out of the way. For those that don't know me, my name is Will Farnell. I'm founder of Farnell Clark and co-founder and director of App Advisory Plus. This is our App Advisory Plus App of the Month webinar. And I'm delighted that Paul is able to join us. Paul and I have known each other for many years now, and we're just saying it's a very long time since we last spoke. So plenty for us to catch up on. Paul, welcome. Please give everybody a bit of an introduction in terms of your background and your switch from practice to tech, and tell people what you're up to now.
Yeah, no, delighted to join you on the webinar this morning, Will, and thank you for having me along. So, bit of background about myself. I started at DEXT back in January of this year, so I work in our product team, just helping on strategy and insights and things like that. But prior to starting at DEXT, I was actually in practice for 21 years. I was a partner in a firm with around 100 or so team members. I was responsible for our digital strategy within the firm. I moved probably over 90% of our clients onto cloud accounting platforms. I also supported the association that we were part of, so another 30 firms across the UK on their digital strategy as well. And you know, I absolutely love how tech is making a huge difference for accountants, bookkeepers, and your clients. And that was the real reason I moved from being in practice to moving to DEXT, so that I could really have an impact and a say in terms of how the product will develop going forward, so that we can continue to help you, and in turn you help your clients. So big move for me from all those years in practice and at the same firm for 21 years. But yeah, absolutely loving the new role now as well.
Excellent, thank you, Paul. And I think we just need to highlight the magnitude of the achievement in practice there. This is we're talking about a mid-tier firm here, and you move 90% of your clients from desktop, no systems whatsoever, onto cloud platform. How long did it take? How long?
It was a good few years, and I would say in my time I have done thousands of demos now on the likes of, you know, Xero, QBO, Receipt Bank, as it was in the time. It was, and then training the team, training clients. A huge amount of time was spent on that transition, and working with app partners as well. One of the biggest things that I think is so important is having that relationship with whatever software provider you use, because they can provide some real valuable insights and support you on this journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly undertaking that, I mean, we must be talking hundreds and hundreds of clients in a top 100 firm.
It was so I moved when I left, it was 1,300 clients or so across the likes of Zero QBO. We had some clients on Sage 1 as it was back then. And all of those clients as well, it wasn't just one product. We were integrating other products like DEXT, Prepare, Receipt Bank as it was, and then other clients had even more. So our app stack was building out throughout that time. So I spent a lot of time looking at what solutions were available that not only helped us, but also a lot of our clients. So yeah, it was a big number, and the team grew from that as well to support that transition.
So clearly the reason for making that point is demonstrating the level of credibility we've got here in terms of the things that we're going to be talking about over this session. You did those kind of numbers. I mean, people that know our story, whilst we adopted technology very, very early on, 2009, all of our clients were on cloud accounting tools. The bit that some people don't know is that we started our journey on cash flow, which kind of predated Xero in the UK. And in 2015, we moved 500 business clients from cash flow to Xero in a period of 18 months, at a time when most firms were still talking about moving clients from desktop to cloud. We were already doing, hey, we're taking a cloud to cloud migration here. Mm-hmm. So from a point of view of moving clients this way, collectively between us, we've got a fair bit of experience here, people. So hopefully we can share some really valuable stuff for you, which leads us nicely onto what are we going to talk about. We're going to talk about what we mean by optimal accounting. So Paul will share his thoughts. I'll share some of mine in terms of what do we mean, why is it important? So why should you be thinking about optimizing your bookkeeping and accounting processes for you in your firm, but more importantly, what does it mean for your clients? Once we've done that, how do we make it happen? So what lessons have we got that we can share with you here that might help you on your journey? This is where questions are going to be great, people. So throw questions into the box. If there's particular kind of pain points, bottlenecks, challenges you've got at the moment, get them out there and we'll tackle those. I want Paul to share with us what DEXT are doing. We're going to talk a little bit about the DEXT products, and when I started using Receipt Bank back in 2011, whenever it was Receipt Bank, and that's kind of what it did. But we've now got DEXT Prepare, DEXT Precision, DEXT Commerce, and I have no doubt there's more to come. So what are DEXT going to do to continue to support us evolve our approach as accountants and bookkeepers? Loads of time for question and answers, but feel free to include those during the session. Don't wait to the end to do that. So Paul, just in case people have been hiding under a rock for a number of years, just tell us a little bit about DEXT, where they come from, what you do, what the future looks like.
Yeah, 100%. So DEXT, many of you have known DEXT as previously known as Receipt Bank, and as Will mentioned, back in Receipt Bank days, we had the one product, and really it was a data extraction tool. Took a picture of an invoice, data extracted, and it would be published to your accounting software. Since the rebrands and some changes along the way, we're now known as DEXT, and we have, as you mentioned, DEXT Prepare, which was formerly Receipt Bank, and that's your sort of data extraction tool, but goes so much further than that in terms of the insights it can provide and really help you maximize the efficiencies and the workflows you have in place. We then have DEXT Precision, formerly known as Xavier Analytics. DEXT Precision provides some real useful insights to ensure that the quality of data is accurate. It provides the ability to pull out the insights that you need to have some really good conversations with your clients and also your team. So DEXT Precision can be that extra pair of hands constantly working behind the scenes, checking all of the data within the accounting software, whether it be Xero or QBO. And then our most recent product is DEXT Commerce. And DEXT Commerce, previously known as Greenback, will pull data from e-commerce platforms like eBay, Etsy, Amazon, and it will take all of this data and put it into a format that makes your bookkeeping so much easier. No more worrying about grossing up transactions, getting everything into a standardized format that can really streamline that process. So those are our 3 core products. And then going forward, as you can imagine, we are looking at a number of areas at the moment, but what we really want to focus on at the moment is give you better insights, give you better data, and really give you the tools that make your life so much easier, which in turn will create capacity that capacity you can use with your clients, or accountants and bookkeepers have had a tough time over the last couple of years. Have an afternoon off. However you want to use that capacity is down to you, but we want to really streamline this whole bookkeeping process, and then that capacity can drive additional areas of work or drive your MTD strategy, whatever.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a bit about kind of where DEXT fits in terms of your strategic approach, but already from some of the things you said there, Paul, it's very, very clear that DEXT is about providing tools to support accountants and bookkeepers work more efficiently, work more effectively, and the opportunity that we have as accountants and bookkeepers is massive. I mean, in some of the preamble for this webinar, I talked about the fact that the big growth area right now is outsourced finance function type work. So that doesn't. Let me clarify that, because that doesn't need to be virtual CFO, virtual FD. Fundamentally, it's about outsourcing the finance function that businesses are currently delivering in-house. And Paul and I were talking before we came onto the webinar. If we look in our firm back to 2018, our largest single client fee was about £17,000 a year. If we roll forward to 2021, our largest client now pays us £77,000 a year. And that's an outsourced finance function job. We're doing bookkeeping, we're doing management reporting, we're doing credit control. That's only possible because of the technology that's available to us now. And those clients are in London, we're in Norwich, and Paul, you had similar clients in your practice days as well.
100%. The benefit of by using cloud technology, is you're no longer restricted geographically. And where I work, we were based in Leeds, and we had clients up the whole length of the country, in all corners of the country. And the great thing for us was, especially with our London clients, and we were doing the full bookkeeping service, was the fees were much higher as well. Yeah. But we were still cheaper than London firms. So, you know, at the end of the day, some clients don't need their accountant on their doorstep. They're not fussed about whether they have that physical relationship, but others do want that. So technology allows you to broaden your opportunities and actually then pick the perfect client as well, the clients that you want to work with.
Absolutely. So let's get into some of the detail around this then, Paul. So we're talking about optimal accounting. What does that mean to you in terms of both your current and your past life? So
optimal accounting for me is actually having the perfect end-to-end workflow. You start at getting the information in, and you get to the end point, whether that's doing year-end accounts, management information, doesn't matter what it is. You get to that, what you're engaged to do with your client, the deliverables, as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. And that means often having fully integrated solutions. So having, let's say, DEXT Prepare integrated into your accounting software, and then any of the products after that to really help you get that perfect end-to-end workflow. What generally happens in reality is everyone has all of these products, and Will and I were speaking earlier, and the term I use is old school accounting is still being used in new technology. So what I still see is document goes into DEXT Prepare and the team were still checking everything. And if you're going through that process of checking to make sure that everything's extracted correctly, you're not going to see the benefits at all. You need that trust in the software, whatever software you use. Trust is important, and confidence that it's going to extract everything correctly. And that will take a bit of time. But once you're at that point, you need to move away from this checking and you need to start having that smooth workflow and then move on to advanced features to really streamline that process.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some of the names on the call. Some people here have heard me speak before, so they'll have heard me talk about this 20% number that I've been quoting for about 4 years now, in terms of the percentage of market adoption within accountancy firms, particularly of firms that are really doing cloud accounting to any sense of kind of reasonable level, and the vendors, certainly the big general ledger vendors, paint a picture that everyone's doing it, and my view is they're not, and we're about 20% of firms are doing it. And I think of that 20%, only 20% of the 20% are really doing it right. And you've given people a benefit of the doubt by assuming that they're already using a DEXT. Of course, there's all of those firms that are using a Xero, QBO, Sage, or whatever, and are still keying data in, because that's, for me, is that real old firm approach, using new technology but thinking that they've got to use it the way they used the desktop products 10 years ago, and if they do that, they're going to be less efficient than they were previously. I mean, am I wildly out with these numbers, or
No, I think you're spot on, and I've got an example which still amuses me today, that we'd brought in electronic working papers when I was in practice, and I had one team member who would still do a paper file but then scan everything and upload it into the electronic working papers. And his viewpoint was, well, I'm using cloud technology, so everything's fine. But it's like, but all you're doing is just bypassing the system and just still doing it the same way. What you should be doing is actually using the software how it should be used. When you look at Xero, QBO, Sage, use direct bank feeds. Yes. Start using all of the features that are there, because that's what will make the difference. And you may think, oh, it's only 20 seconds, it's only 30 seconds. Think how many invoices are being processed, and then scale that up across all of your clients. And then all of a sudden, and then apply your charge out rate. All of this time is often just written off. This is potential billable time that could be, or chargeable time that could be used in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly I'm a very big advocate of daily bookkeeping. I've been very vocal about that for a number of years now. And it kind of leads on to the second point in terms of things we want to discuss around why is it important for you, and more importantly for your clients. And I think the whole point of what this technology enables us to do is to actually deliver something very different. And I think we almost have to start with a blank sheet of paper. And if we're thinking about building the ideal firm, what does the ideal firm look like? What does it deliver to its clients? And I always use the analogy that I'm sure many of the people on the call today are running their own firm. And if I'd have thought about it, I could have created a poll. But what I would guess is that if people on this call are running their own firm, they reconcile their bank account every day. They'll go into Xero, QBO, whatever they're using, they'll reconcile their bank account. If they're using DEXT, they'll go in, they'll feed their DEXT receipts through, reconcile the bank. I used to, when I used to still do it in my firm, I'd wake up every morning, I'd make a cup of coffee, I'd sit down, I'd open the laptop, and I'd do my bank rec. And it was just force of habit. And if we as accountants are doing that in our own firm, and if you were an accountant in a commercial organization, the likelihood is that stuff will be done every day. So why is it when we're delivering supposedly a professional, high value service to our clients, do we think it's okay to do it once a quarter? Or maybe once a month if we're feeling really kind of positive about it? the technology that's here today enables us to do this stuff daily, provide insightful data to clients on a regular basis. So we're daily. Again, I've been very vocal about the fact that across our client base, we average about 4 minutes per day per client in terms of daily processing. I've got to be careful, and I wouldn't say we're doing full bookkeeping on a daily basis, but we're processing receipt bank, we're reconciling banks in Xero. What was your approach, Paul? Did you get to daily with your clients?
We were trying to move towards daily, so it's not something you can just turn on, unfortunately, and go, right, we're currently quarterly, and we're only quarterly because it's the VAT return which is triggering that quarterly sort of, we've got to do it every quarter. Whereas by moving that towards monthly, weekly, and then daily, what we were starting to find was we were actually having better conversations with clients, and there were the right decisions were therefore being made at the right time in terms of anything that was being discussed. It wasn't a case of knee-jerk reactions. So I think it's absolutely critical that things are moved towards daily, because then that will actually open up more opportunities to work close with your clients. There'll be more understanding of the numbers. There'll be more visibility of, God, that doesn't look quite right. That's, gross margins just suddenly fallen off a cliff. Now there could be a reason for it, but is this going to be the start of a trend? You don't want to get to the third month and find that for the last 3 months it's been falling. You want to be able to identify that this is something we should be looking at and just keeping an eye on now, so that if a decision does have to be made, you've got everything in place and you've already got plan A, plan B, plan C, depending on the outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it could just pick up on a couple of bits there. One of the things when I spend a lot of my time working with other accounting firms, helping them think about this kind of stuff, and the way that I always describe DEXT in my own term, I don't think I use the DEXT approach here, is that I say to people that what DEXT does for us is it provides us with our bookkeeping management system. So DEXT drives our bookkeeping approach. We keep a really close eye on things like delay day index. And I think across 550 odd active clients, we average about 5 days on our delay day index.
Which is unbelievable.
Which I'm guessing is pretty good.
It is.
Particularly because we've got clients in there that are kind of almost annual clients that are doing it themselves. So that kind of distorts our average. And just in case anybody doesn't know what I mean by this, in DEXT there's a report or graph that shows the average time, or the time it takes from the point of purchase to the receipt or invoice hitting your DEXT inbox. So across our clients, we're getting data from our clients on average within 5 days of them spending the money. Now, one of the big challenges I hear accountants have is getting data from clients. So just imagine for a second that you could get your records from your clients within 5 days of them spending the money. What kind of difference does that make to your business?
It's huge, and even with our clients where we weren't doing daily, we were encouraging everybody in the partner group. I would always say, if you went out for lunch with a client, take a picture of the receipt there and then, because it starts this conversation with the client going, oh, what are you doing? Well, even though we may not process it straight away, we're in the habit now of every time you've got that receipt, we take a picture. Every time you've got an invoice, get it in. If it sits there, that's fine. But, well, it's not fine because you really want to process it, but at least it's there, it's visible. And what that also allows, which I thought was always hugely beneficial for me and my team, was often a job would drop out and I would look at the client view on DEXT Prepare and go, well, work on that client or work on that client, because everything's there ready and waiting. So it allowed this more flexible, agile working. You didn't have downtime as such, and you weren't running around to try and find work. By using all of these insights, it also meant you knew if a client was struggling a bit. This is a daily bookkeeping job, so why have we got this number of items outstanding? Why have we got this missing paperwork? We're in danger of impacting the relationship. So for me, visibility as a partner was absolutely key. so that I could just keep track of where things were.
And of course, precision builds on that, doesn't it?
It does, builds on it even further. Precision then goes further and gives you a health score for clients. Yeah. So, I know of some firms who will go, if the quality of the records or the health score isn't 80% or above, we're not going to start the work. Yeah. Because all what's going to happen is we're going to have journal entries left, right, and centre. We're going to be spending time reconciling control accounts that no longer balance. We're going to be, we're just going to be wasting time. And by using precision, you then have the power to go back to a client if they're doing their own bookkeeping and saying, look, we need this tidied up before we start. We can either do it for you, but we're going to have to charge you an additional fee, or we can give you a bit of time to sort it out, and then we'll make a start on the year-end accounts, whatever it may be. Because I know from my days when I was doing working papers and things like that, the biggest frustration was, you'd get so far and then you'd find something didn't reconcile and it would just impact everything.
Yeah.
So a 2-day job would turn into a 4-day job. And often that time is then written off. It's always difficult to have a conversation with a client about fees after you've done the work.
Yes.
By using precision, you can have the conversation before you start the work and say, this is where we are with it.
Yeah, we've had a question come in, Paul. It's probably a timely point to take this. So somebody said, as accountants, we're responsible for the data going into the VAT return and accounts. The software doesn't always get the extraction completely correct, so must be checked. Blaming mistakes on software won't run with the client or HMRC. What do you suggest? So how do we build in steps in our processes to validate, make sure that this is right?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a VAT return, I think there's always some checks you can do at higher level, like the ratio between box 6 and box 1, making sure that when you're looking at the input tax on purchases, how does that compare to the previous quarter in terms of percentage? But I think there's also always some high risk areas, which I do think do need to be looked at. And this can all be built into workflows, as in, are we happy with the entertaining expenditure? Is it client? Is it staff? Have we checked any leased cars? So I think in terms of a VAT return, the danger is you end up just checking every transaction and you just end up spending too much time on it. But when you look at the VAT reports coming out, it is nicely split between those which are, I'm going to call, say, T9, being the old Sage days, or outside the scope, or no VAT in zero, I think it's called. Reviewing those, it's a scan. I used to spend no more than about 5-10 minutes on a VAT return.
Yeah.
But I was looking for bigger areas and use precision to pick up an anomaly. So precision will identify for you, this month or this supplier you've previously claimed VAT on. This quarter you haven't claimed the VAT on this invoice. You sure that's right? And it will do it the other way around as well. Yeah. So use the tools to do a lot of that review for you.
Yeah. And again, it starts with the quality of the setup of the system in the first place, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
Supplier
often and so on.
100%. Often the errors which creep in are actually due to the settings right from the start. And I remember when I first set up a client all those years ago on Receipt Bank to Xero, I'd got the setting wrong. And I'd got the setting which said allow Xero to decide how to treat the VAT based on the VAT settings in Xero for each of the nominal codes. So in Receipt Bank, all of the data was being extracted, and I thought that's fine. But when it was being pushed across, everything changed.
Yeah,
because Xero overwrote everything that I'd done. That was an error from my part, and it was a big learning curve. So my advice is you've got to put the time and investment in at the start with all your systems, processes, settings, and then you'll get the rewards.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's I'd urge people to really look at what you're doing with DEXT and reach out to your account managers and things if if you think there's things you're not doing. I mean, some of the stuff that I know we were kind of had support on very early on, long time ago now, around things like using filters in the inbox to start to filter out all of the non-VAT transactions, for example.
Yep.
And things like this that we often don't think about the new functionality that's there. So how do people get the most out of DEXT to make sure they're not missing anything, Paul?
Yeah, no, so the client view always in DEXT Prepare would drive awareness and visibility. In terms of the actual processing of the transactions, there's always some transactions you don't even need to review, really, because something like a utility bill will always be the same and it'll always be extracted absolutely fine. And you can use features like fetch, auto publish, auto categorization. I call this no hands accounting, because you don't actually have to touch any of it. It just goes all the way through into your accounting software. Other transactions, you may have a leased vehicle. Use a supplier rule to change it so you're not claiming 100% of the VAT. Change it so you're only claiming 50% of the VAT on that vehicle, and then use the filters as you say. I used to search by nominal ledger code, but I'd only pick out like the entertaining ones, so I could just quickly scan down and go, seems a bit strange we're claiming VAT here on something which looks like it was a lunch with a client or whoever it may be.
Yeah.
But for me, when you look at workflows, you also have mini workflows within DEXT, and that's where the rules and the features come into play. Yeah. And by implementing them, you'll start to see the real workflows.
Yeah.
And the benefits from it.
Because I would hazard a guess that if 1 in 10 people are using filters to kind of make that check of that data more efficient, I'd be surprised if it's 1 in 10. And somebody's actually made a really good suggestion here. If you haven't already got it, Paul, does DEXT have a top tips and tricks type help sheet?
I don't know if we do, but I can pull something together, because I actually have that myself, and various hacks and things like that, like how you can use expense reports for income tax purposes. Yeah. So we're working on this. I know we are, but I've certainly got something that I can maybe pull together and get across to you, Will. And
yeah. The great, and it may just be something that's really useful for users anyway.
Completely, because I think I want to say app fatigue, because I think it's a real issue. There's so many new updates coming in every product, and trying to keep up to date with everything, I think, is a real challenge. Yeah. And that overall awareness, and I think and then knowing where it fits into play and what's the benefit. In the past, it's often been feature driven, not benefit driven. Yes. And features are nice, but why does it help me? Why does it help my client?
Yeah, and Patrick, your comment here is a really good one. You say that all your business clients are on Xero and are using DEXT, and you tend to assume that all other firms are just the same. We live in a bubble. We live in a social bubble, and I'm sure I'm speaking for most of the people on this webinar today. The fact you're here is the fact that you're interested in this stuff, and it's really easy to think that everyone's doing what we're doing, but I would, if all of you guys are doing stuff with cloud technology platforms, you're using DEXT already, you are in the top quartile of firms, not only in the UK, but globally. So please take that away, that you guys are still the pioneers, you're the early adopters. If we're only at 20%, we're still in early adopter. There's a massive advantage for all of you guys in this, and it's really easy to think that we're late to the party or everybody else is doing it. They're simply not. And Paul,
not at all.
Paul see that in the same way as I do.
And this isn't just UK. This is in all regions. There is still a huge number of accountants, bookkeepers who haven't started this journey, and they're struggling to know where to start. And we've suddenly got this panic starting to set in because of MTD for ITSA. but that's just such a small part. And the danger is, looking at that in isolation is the wrong approach. You've got to look at your whole process and try and really maximize the efficiency of that. MTD is really just the submission of the numbers to HMRC. You've still got to go through all of those steps to get the numbers.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how do you make it happen, and I think the likelihood we've got lots of people that are doing some of this already. We've had two questions that touch on the same point here, Paul. So one of them says some clients go mad scanning everything. So if, for example, they buy via Amazon, they have an order confirmation, the invoice, a delivery confirmation, they send it all in. How do I prevent it? Client education ? And the second one says, I have lots of suppliers set to auto publish. However, this causes problems when a client uploads a statement rather than an invoice. As the statement then appears in Xero. How do I approach this with the client? Ask them to share in other ways. Again, it's client education, isn't it? How did you tackle that in your firm, and how do you advise firms to do it now?
The client education is a hard piece, but before you can do the client education, you've also got to make sure your team are all comfortable and fully up to speed with all of the processes as well. If you have a team, if not, it may just be yourself. What we used to do was we actually did quarterly tax updates or a budget tax update, and we started to bolt on to that tax and tech update. So it worked in two ways, because if there wasn't much on the tax, there was always something on the tech.
Yeah.
But then we also started, and in that we'd talk about some of the new features or some of the key mistakes that clients may be doing. We would do newsletters covering some key aspects as well, and we would do group training sessions. Some clients would do one-to-one. Other clients in a room over lunch, and we'd go through some of the core areas. It does take time, that's the challenge, but it's worthwhile the investment, because if you get all of these things in place, then you'll start getting better information coming through, which is the ultimate goal, and means that you're then spending less time. It's not just a case of a one-off, it's a constant education piece. It's not going to ever stop. But what you'll find is the content for the education will change as things improve and different technology comes into play.
Yeah, and I think my point about daily bookkeeping earlier is that so much of this is education, and some of the best things that we did in our firm actually came from our very early engagements with Receipt Bank back in the day. So I've talked on many of these sessions before around the fact that we have what we call a welcome team. And that came from very early into action with Receipt Bank, and they worked with us to think about what that should look like in our firm.
Yep.
And it's still really relevant today. So every new client goes to the welcome team. It's all about education, and there's two reasons why daily bookkeeping is valuable in a way that I believe people should be working with their clients. One is that it means the clients have got up-to-date data. We process daily. We tell the client it's a weekly service. So once a week, we're chasing clients for missing information. So we have a weekly touch point with most of our clients. That aids the education, because if you say to the client every week, you're asking them to do the same thing over and over and over again, the way that people learn is often through repetition. So if you tell them the same thing every single week, at some point they're going to say, I'm really fed up, or will keep telling me that I'm doing it this way. You know what? I'm just going to do it.
I completely agree. It's just that consistent approach. And the other thing we did, depending on how many clients you've got, for our smaller clients, I actually created some videos, which we could then just send out to cover some of the key issues. 3-4 minute videos, never longer than that, so that if we kept on getting the same query, we didn't have to go through the same half-an-hour conversation every time. It was, let me send you some material. And the reason we did our own videos is that personal touch. At the end of the day, you can refer a client to the help part of DEXT website or Xero's website or whoever it may be. But for me, that isn't providing the service I always wanted to provide. you know, so having that personal touch was just, it just ticked a lot of boxes, and it meant we could just reuse the videos.
Yeah. And the second reason for daily bookkeeping is that it creates what I call habitually good habits. So by our team processing transactions every day in DEXT, they all have their starred clients. So when they log in, they only see the clients that they've got to look at. We don't need to track workflows, because we've created really good habits in our team that the first thing they do in the morning is they come in, they clear their decks, they go into Zero, they clear the bank rec, and then they move on to the day job, they move on to the VAT returns, the accounts prep, whatever it is. So we don't have to worry about people ticking off, yes, I've done the bookkeeping for client A, client B, client C. One of the challenges I get is it really efficient going into every client every day rather than just going in once a month?
Great.
Yes. DEXT makes it easy because we can see they've got nothing in the inbox. We don't need to go into that client today. It will also tell us what they've got in the Zero bank account waiting to be reconciled.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, where you start to lose efficiencies is this pick up, put down. You start something, find you're missing some paperwork, then you leave it, you jump into the next client. And by doing it every day, you know the state of play for every client. And even if you're not doing the bookkeeping, or you're doing part of the bookkeeping, I even had some clients who got their kids to take all the pictures every day, because they're always on their phone anyway. And it was a way that their kids could earn a bit of pocket money. And I had clients, generally self-employed, or, you know, at the smaller end, they would just go, look, here's all my receipts, can you just take pictures of them? And it was this sort of habit and process that became embedded, so that it would just became the norm. It no longer became a change in habit. It was just like, well, this is the way we do things.
Absolutely. As I expected, Paul, we're coming towards the end. We could continue this conversation for many, many more hours, but I appreciate everybody's got work to do. So I'm going to start to draw us towards a wrap up here. If anybody has any final questions, do chuck them in the Q&A, and we'll try and answer those. From where I sit, Paul, DEXT is in a really unique position. You're the only one of the key kind of pre-accounting tools that is not owned by a general ledger at the moment. There is some I guess mild concern in terms of the strategy of some of the general ledger platforms. How much are they really focused on the accounting channel compared to end users? We've got new platforms coming to market focused around the most micro of businesses, and what will it help end users do themselves to cut out the accountant. Conversations I've had with many of the team at DEXT, and the way that I look into what you guys are doing, of all of the key tech partners that we have in our business, I feel really comfortable with DEXT in terms of that you're in our corner. That your product strategy is about helping us help our clients. Have I got that right?
You have got it 100% right. One of the reasons I joined DEXT and not another software company was, you know, I'm an accountant and I want to help more accountants and bookkeepers. And, you know, and that is a very strong thing for me, and also for DEXT. And we now have in my team, I've got another 4 accountants in our across our regions to continue to support. And then we've got Katie in our practice solutions expert team, all accountants again, who are going out and helping accountants with this implementation, onboarding, change management. So we want to continue to give you the right information, the right insights, the right data, so that you can make your business better, and you can make your clients' businesses better.
Yeah, and clearly you've made 2 acquisitions, and I would be astonished if there aren't more in the future. I'm not going to suggest that you tell us what they might be, but clearly the plan is to find new ways to help us continually evolve what we deliver and how we deliver it.
100%. You know, when you look at the workflow from onboarding a client all the way through to the tax, the accounts, whatever it may be, we want to help you on that journey. And, you know, there's different parts that we could play in. And some of that we can build ourselves. Others will be through acquisitions. But as legislation changes as well, not just in the UK, but in other regions where you've got e-invoicing coming into play, we want to ensure that DEXT Prepare continues to be that point where all documents can come in, irrespective of the format that they're in. So traditional sales invoices to e-commerce sale, to digital sales, through, you know, receipts, everything. So that we're that source of truth where all financial data is being collected and then processed and then published.
Perfect. Excellent. Quick question. Somebody's asked, how can I find out who their account manager is?
That's a very good question. So if I can get the details sent across to me, I can find that out for you and we can be in touch.
Great. So that was Patrick. Patrick, drop us an email and we'll get that out.
Yeah, and I will move that forward. I'm a bit hesitant on that answer, not because in all honesty, I don't know, because I don't work in our sales team, I work in our product team. So I don't know our systems and processes. So what I will do is I will pass that on and make sure that someone reaches out.
We'll find an answer. So I always like to wrap up these sessions with some key takeaways. I didn't get to mention it, but it's one of the things I talk about a lot. We as accountants have to own the process. So this idea about daily bookkeeping, almost dictating to our clients the way we want them to work, because I'm guessing that everybody is doing some kind of fixed fee or wants to do fixed fee, wants to do monthly billing. If that's your approach, if you don't control how your clients work, you will never be able to control the profitability. So you have to control the process to be able to control the profitability. Daily bookkeeping is what we do for ourselves, so why should we not be doing it for our clients? I spend so much of my time telling my team in Farnell Clark, put yourself in the shoes of the client. Whenever you're going to talk to a client, whenever you're going to engage with a client, think about what you're going to say to them and what you're going to do for them. Think about how it makes them feel. So look for opportunities for us to do things differently. And this is definitely one of mine. DEXT has our backs. They're firmly in the corner of the accountants and bookkeepers. So regardless of where you think the market's going and the risks that we face in terms of technology wanting to cut out the accountant, DEXT is providing tools to help us remain efficient, enable us to compete with these new tech platforms that are being developed. And if you use the technology right, with the right process, the right people doing the right bit of the process, you will be as efficient as any technology platform. But what you're also doing is you're able to add that human element that overlays the technology. And that's what clients value, and that's what we need to be striving to do. Paul, thank you ever so much indeed. I was really looking forward to today's session. We've chatted informally many times over the years. I knew that this would be really insightful for people that were listening in. If anybody's got any questions, do get in touch with us. We can pass them on to Paul. You can find Paul on LinkedIn, certainly. And I'm sure if you've got any questions that you'd like Paul to answer, he'd be very happy to do so. So connect
100%,
Paul,
definitely.
Paul on LinkedIn. Thank you everybody for taking the time to join us. I hope it's delivered what we said we were going to try and do for you. Do get in touch with anything that is a burning challenge for you. We will do our utmost to point you in the right direction and give you the support you need. So Paul, thank you ever so much indeed.
Thank you, Will.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you to the guys from DEXT for being involved in the webinar this month. It's kind of almost December, so it's probably going to be Christmas before we do another one of these. So enjoy the festive break, everybody. January will be over before we know it. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks again, Paul, and we'll speak again very soon.
We will do. Thanks, Will. Thanks
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.